Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a new episode of the Habibis Suhoor Bites. It is by now day 13 of Ramadan. Things are going really, really fast at this point, sort of that halfway stretch. I have a very exciting guest today, somebody that I've wanted to get on the Habibis for a while now. I'm glad that we could finally make it happen. Youssef Maguid, are you here?
Yes, Rami, thank you so much for having me. I've been wanting to be on the Habibis for quite some time. I'm a big fan. Also, gosh, I can't believe we're on day 13 already.
It's going really fast. I was looking at the moon yesterday and I'm like, oh, okay, we're here already.
I swear Ramadan goes faster every single year. I remember being a kid, and even though, when I was when we were younger, it was, during the winter months, the days were short. It still felt so long. But now, even in the summer months, it flies by.
And it's also the year after it flies by. We were joking, Fauzi and Osam and I were joking at the end of last Ramadan that the Ramadan will be back in months.
Yeah.
And it's just and then it's back.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but especially now that it's getting earlier in the year, and we're getting to April, and soon next year it'll be in March. It always feels like that the first couple months of the year just fly by, and so it's we start the new year, and then it's basically Ramadan. It feels like.
How do you feel about knowing that we're reaching that age where Ramadan has looped around the entire year?
Yeah, I mean it's so funny because I think of I haven't made it a full cycle yet.
Same.
And so I think of all of the different time periods that were in all the different times of my life that I was in when it was in that time of year. So the example I always give, I was born and raised here in California. I played American football growing up. When I was in high school, which was, the time I was most devoted to football, Ramadan was in the fall. It was in those months. It was in September, October.
Mm-hmm.
So I played football while fasting, and it was by far the hardest, full Ramadan of my life.
Yep.
Those months when you're playing a game, and if it's a day game, you can't, obviously you're not drinking during the game. If it's a night game, you can drink, but at that point you haven't eaten a full meal or anything like that, far from it. Right. So you're basically running on fumes. And those were always, what I think of as the most challenging times. It's not a few years ago when Ramadan was during the longest part of the year. It was when, I was fasting while playing a very, intense sport.
Right. Yeah. I did soccer, and I have basically exactly the same memory. Also, it being fall and it being raining, and just being like, what if I just drink the rain? What if I just do that? Because I guess you're in California, weather wouldn't change throughout the year.
Yeah, in fact, it was actually pretty hot. I tell this story to people where it was my freshman year, so I was 14 years old, and we were playing on turf fields. So there's those rubber pellets everywhere, and on a hot day, the heat just radiates off of there.
Oh,
and it ends up adding an extra 10 degrees, and so it's probably 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So just sweltering heat.
That's like 35 Celsius. That's too much.
Yes.
It's too high. Too high. The temperature is too high.
It was too hot. Absolutely.
Right.
But it got to the point where my football team that year didn't have many players, so everyone was playing the entire game. It got to the point where I stopped sweating because I was so dehydrated.
Oh no!
And part of my job was to call the plays on defense. I'd have to huddle everyone up and say, "Hey, this is the formation we're running." I was so dehydrated, I had no saliva, so I couldn't speak.
Right.
So every other play, I'd run to the sideline, just rinse my mouth out with water and spit it out so I could speak. And it's, I think back on every single day I've had fasting ever since, and that's the single hardest day I've ever had. I remember.
That sounds really, really rough. I also remember, for me, summer Ramadan is E3.
Yes, right. Which I don't know. How do you feel about fasting during E3?
I mean, I fast during E3 because I was traveling all the time. right? I was traveling 300 days a year. So for me, the like travel exemption basically means that I don't fast.
Right.
And I'm a little too prideful to not fast. So I would fast at Ramadan because it just otherwise I would not catch up on Ramadan until like 4 months later. So
I'm the same way where, you know, I don't, that's the exception that like, I'm like, yeah, I don't need it. It's okay. I can power through. But I also, I don't know about you, but I feel like E3 is such a busy time that, you know, it goes by so fast, honestly. I feel like most people, whether they know it or not, are basically fasting during E3 anyway.
With one notable exception, which is the lunch and dinner meetings.
Sure. I guess, yeah. I wasn't taking too many meetings, but
right,
you know, working E3 in the way I did, I would look around a lot of my peers and coworkers, and you know, they're like, "Oh, I don't know how you're doing this. You know, you're fasting." And I asked them what they ate today, and they were like, "Oh, a cup of coffee and a granola bar." And it's like, yeah, well, see, it's not much different.
Right. I just had it 2 hours earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, for me, it was always like 4 lunch meetings and then 2 dinner meetings, and me just sitting there and people going like, "So, do you want some water then?" Like, no, thank you.
Not even water.
Not even water. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's always been fun. Like, my 2 favorite things about Ramadan each year are always, you know, this was harder with COVID, but just like the sense of community and just like the great excuse to make good food.
Yes. Oh my God.
That's like, I do this thing every year where I basically pull out just what I have in the kitchen and just try to make 20-minute recipes out of everything.
Oh, that's fun. I like that idea.
And yeah, you just buy a whole bunch of stuff, you know, like some proteins, some veggies, some carbs. And you just kind of go like, all right, what could I do with this? And I have enough spices and everything in my kitchen to make something meaningful out of everything. So I've come up with some really nice recipes in this month.
Anything that you've like committed to, you know, I'm writing this down, this is going in the cookbook?
Yeah, a whole bunch of them. There's actually one that I made the other day, which is a marinade that is basically soy, honey, you know, like just like a sort of sweet soy marinade that I normally make with chicken. But this time I was eating with somebody who's vegetarian. So I did crispy tofu instead.
Ooh.
And then you just do it with sushi rice and lints of cucumber and carrot.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
And you marinate like half of them and don't marinate half of them. So the tofu is nice and it's kind of sticky and it's like nicely marinated. And then the sushi rice is just sushi rice. It's like nice fluffy rice. And then the veggies are basically half of them are also marinated and half of them are just fresh. And it's just a really good combo. My favorite dessert comes from that month as well.
Oh, what's that?
It's very straightforward. You take vanilla ice cream. You take black pepper. You mix the two. Then you take a pineapple. You cube it. You sugar it. Then you heat it until it caramelizes a bit. Put hot pineapple at the bottom of a bowl. Add vanilla ice cream with pepper on top of it. Add some pineapples on top of that. There you go.
Rami, you're changing my life. I've had the, you know, crushed black pepper on vanilla ice cream before, and I think it's delicious. But the pineapple,
it makes all the difference, especially when it starts melting into each other.
Oh gosh,
because the nice thing about the vanilla ice cream black pepper thing is like obviously you get like the softness of the vanilla ice cream and then the kick of the pepper, right? And it's just like it's transcendent. It's incredible.
It's so good. It's such a great juxtaposition of flavors and senses. I'm glad
they add the pineapple, and it's like, yeah, it's a new level.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up your favorite dessert because I recently learned how to make my favorite dessert. So
which one?
It's a tayyif. The Egyptian way of making it, where at least, you know, you correct me if I'm wrong. I was always told this was the Egyptian way with stuffing it with walnuts and raisins. Yeah. But for those who don't know what a tayyif is, it's basically a pancake that you stuff and fold like an empanada or a pot sticker, and then you fry it and cover it in syrup. And it's the most delicious, heavenly thing ever. And it's my favorite thing. My grandmother makes them every year during Ramadan. And one of the things I discovered during the pandemic, I always knew I loved watching cooking shows, and I loved food, and I loved consuming food in all of the ways that I could, whether even if it was just watching a cooking show on TV. But during the pandemic, I finally sat down and said, hey, I'm going to learn how to cook all of these things and bake all of these things that I've always wanted to. And so I started doing that, and I loved it. It's my favorite hobby now. But that eventually evolved into, okay, there's so many amazing Egyptian dishes that I don't know how to cook. And I'm fortunate enough that my grandmother lives close enough to me that I can go to her house, and I can sit there and spend a day with her, and she can just teach me.
Well, you can do half a meal in that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Egyptian dishes take like 14 hours.
I know. So. Yeah, we've only done one thing at a time. Fortunately, my partner Belinda has been going with me too, so we kind of do a 3-person kitchen.
Nice.
And she and I learn along the way, and I've roped my mom into visiting as well, so it's kind of 3 generations of Egyptians.
I mean, and then you're cooking being judged by your mom and your grandma as like hard mode.
Well, fortunately, it's not like that first time we make it, we all make it together. So it's more about just the learning part, the aspect. Okay. But I've learned how to make a taif, and a taif it's a Ramadan dessert. Right, you don't really eat it any other time of year. And now that I have the power to make it, part of me is like, well, why? I could have this year round. Why don't I have it year round? But I do try to keep some things a little bit traditional at least, and so I've been making it more during Ramadan. Anytime someone invites me over to an iftar, which is a relatively new thing for me this year. I'll make it for them, or if we're hosting, I'll make it. But and I've been experimenting with fillings and things like that, doing savory versions. It's been a lot of fun.
Any favorite savory versions?
Yeah, actually, super simple is mint and feta.
Ooh,
you chop the two up, mix them together, stuff it, and you fry it up just the same way, except you don't cover it in syrup at the end.
Right,
and it's divine. It's so good.
That does sound really good. Oh, I'm gonna have to try that one.
Oh, please, hey, come visit. I will make you.
Inshallah, like I hope so. Like I'm actually gonna be in California relatively soon, but I'm gonna be in LA, I think.
Okay.
So that's not as easy.
We'll make it happen at some point. But we'll make it happen. Even if I'll bring them to GDC next year.
Right. Well, I mean, they're gonna overlap.
That's
at
true.
Some point,
yeah.
Right. So then we can actually like properly do it. For me, the Ramadan dish that I never make during the rest of the year is the thing I break fast with. My dad always taught me to do dates with milk with cashews.
Yeah,
but we mix them.
Do you
so we just
blend
take
it up,
milk?
Or how?
No. We just have milk. We put dates in them, and then we put cashews in them. Like it's just milk with dates in it and cashews in it.
Ooh.
We fridge it for like 15 minutes just so that it's nice and like slightly chilled. And you eat it with a spoon.
Oh. That actually sounds really good.
It's really good because the dates somewhat sweeten the milk, and the cashews are nice and crunchy. So you get like this slightly sweetened milk with dates and cashews in it. And the thing that it helped me deal with was normally when the fast was done, I would immediately drink like a liter of water, and I would always be nauseous.
Yeah.
So this kind of forced me to like drink with a spoon.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it's nice too because I've been guilty of the same thing where you're so thirsty and you just immediately start chugging water, and then it just fills up your stomach too. It's just taking up volume.
Yep. Yeah. Well, this sort of like it quenches your thirst. The dates give you energy. The cashews give you something to like chew on. It's a very complete end of fast meal. I make it only during Ramadan. I make it for iftar. I make it for suhoor. It's great.
It sounds amazing. I need to try it.
Oh, wait, I have to ask a question though. Have you tried making fatir?
I haven't yet. My mom actually just made fatir. My partner's family and my family were meeting for the first time, and she was going to make a whole Egyptian feast and asked me what I wanted, and so one of the things I requested was fatir.
Amazing.
And I haven't actually made anything with phyllo dough before. That's next on my list though, because I absolutely love it.
Yeah, fatir was always it was our McDonald's equivalent. If we did something, if we were good for a day, we would go get fatir.
Oh, you know what I had? I did actually teach myself. This was not a recipe I got from my grandmother or mom. Is actually hawashi. I found a cookbook and I learned how to make it myself, including the aish beledi, making that from scratch. And for those who don't know, hawashi it's basically you take aish beledi, which is an Egyptian version of pita, essentially with whole wheat flour, and you you cut it in half, you make a pocket, and you stuff it with raw meat that's seasoned with parsley and cilantro and onion and garlic, and you bake it. And to cook the meat, you bake it in already baked bread, so that when the meat cooks, the beef cooks, all the fat kind of seeps into the bread, and it gets really crispy and juicy and delicious. You take it out and you eat it. Like all as sort of like a sandwich. It's essentially a street food in Egypt, but it is so delicious. And it's the one thing I've actually been able to give to my mom that she doesn't know how to make.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I feel like
that's cool.
Yeah, I get to actually, not introduce her. She's obviously had, hawashi,
right?
but it's something I get to, maybe teach her at least.
Right. Yeah, we my grandma's signature dish besides the fatir was a plate of macaroni bechamel. And then she would always make some frech panay, like panay chicken.
Yeah.
That was always her signature, like dinner for like a big day. And I mean the Arabs know how to do carbs. Let's give them that. All right, like. I was explaining kushari to somebody, and they were just like,
It's the national food.
It's just carbs on carbs on carbs
yes.
on carbs with tomato sauce. It's like,
yeah.
When you put it that way, yes, that's correct.
Well, and I feel like everything also gets carbs on it in some way or another. If you're having shadkaseya, it's with rice. If you're having the way I eat bemia is with rice. And
yep.
So everything is carbs in one way or another.
Yeah. I can't do molokhia though.
What? Wait, you don't like molokhia, or you don't eat it with rice?
It doesn't work for me. Something about the texture throws me off since I was a kid.
I think that's what probably throws most people off is not the taste, but the texture. It is a bit slimy. So I understand that. That's how I used to be with bemia, but I've come around on it.
I really need to retry molokhia at some point because it's just a childhood thing, right? It's like I ate it, I didn't like it, and from that point on, I just didn't like it because I didn't like it.
Yeah, I would say
maybe time to retry it.
I'd say the way to make it maybe more palatable at first is to mix it in with rice, and then what I've done since I was a kid is shred some chicken and add that as well.
Ooh.
And it's
okay.
It's an entire meal in one bowl. It's one of my favorite things. That's probably that's got to be next on the list too. That I need my grandmother to teach me.
Okay, I'm gonna have to try this because otherwise I have to hand in my Egyptian card.
I know. I'm shocked actually.
It's my big shame. My big shame. Anyway, Youssef, thanks so much for talking about food. I hope that people keep to the idea and listen to this during Suhoor for the Suhoor bites. Because if you're listening to this episode during the fast, like, we're sorry.
I'm saying I still have 2 hours until iftar, so I've started. My mouth started watering.
Right. Well, the good news is you can start preparing those things and then have them.
Yeah, exactly.
So that could work. Thanks so much, Youssef. Is there anywhere people can find you online or anywhere that you want to point people at?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Youssef Maguid. If actually, I actually have an entire food Instagram as well. While we're on the subject, it's on Instagram called it's at the Hunger Traps. You can follow there. I just actually posted my atayef, and so you can follow me at any of those places.
I did not know about the hunger traps. I'm gonna have to follow this as soon as Ramadan is over.
Yes. Yeah, save it. Yeah. You don't need the temptation now.
Exactly. Youssef, shukran. We will speak somewhere in the nearby future. For everybody else, thank you for listening into another episode of the Suhoor Bites, and salam.
Salam.